Afternoon, PPMA colleagues, and welcome to our webinar on Friday. I'm Natasha Brown. I'm one of the Vice Presidents of PPMA, and today I've got joined with me Claire Harris from Liverpool City Council and Matt Ingram-Smith from TriPad. We've got an exciting session ahead of us today as they talk about how they worked in partnerships to achieve some great things at Liverpool City Council. Over to you, I think, Claire and Matt.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Natasha. Hi, everybody. Lovely to see you all. Claire is going to start sharing her screen. So just while she does that, I'll just fill the next 10 seconds or so. Claire, this is your cue to start sharing. TriPad, you may know us as recruitment software providers, specializing in local authorities in particular. Today, the hat that I am wearing is as strategic partner to the PPMA. And so we're really delighted to be here and host one of our wonderful and one of our newest customers. So over to you, Claire, representing Liverpool City Council.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining today. Matt, thank you for the introduction, and Natasha as well. So my name's Claire Harris, and I am Interim Strategic Attraction and Recruitment Lead at Liverpool City Council. Probably one of the longest job titles I think I've ever had. And I joined Liverpool City Council about 14 or 15 months ago as an interim. To address some of the challenges that we see across not just public sector, but also private sector organisations in terms of attraction, recruitment, and also retention. And one of my first tasks here, obviously, was to address some of our ways of working. But what I'm going to talk to you about now is not just my role, but also obviously the relationship that we've developed with TriPad, how that came about, success stories, lessons learned, and some of the takeaways that Matt's also had from working, I think, with such a large public sector organisation. So if I can get to my next slide, that would probably help, wouldn't it, Matt? Where's that gone now? There we go. So I'm going to talk through, welcome to 2025, everyone. And I'm not sure about you, but my first couple of weeks of January has been hectic. Everything that we were talking about in 2024 has now come to fruition very, very rapidly. And I would imagine that some of you are up against some of the same challenges that I probably am. I'm going to have a brief introduction to me and my role, why we decided to go with TriPad, some of the lessons learnt, how can I support you on your journey, and any questions that you may have as well at the end. And I think that, you know, that there's a lot to get through, but I'm hoping that I can give you as much of a heads up as I possibly can. So I'm going to talk through initially me, myself, and I. So my role here is certainly around transforming recruitment, attraction and retention at Liverpool City Council. And there were many issues for me to address when I arrived. I actually come from the private sector. This is my first step into public sector. So bringing with me that private sector knowledge, that private sector set of eyes, creativity and dynamic approach to recruitment and talent. So for me, the first port of call was how are we going to enhance our candidate journey and our manager experience, making some changes to our manager experience along the way, and taking back control of some of our recruitment processes that managers had been addressing themselves. And the first part of that was, what data can I pull? And our system at the time was another system called TalentLink, and TalentLink wasn't able to provide me with the reporting and the data that I required to be able to make those I guess decisions that I needed to, and to be able to influence those decisions that we needed to make as an organisation in order to be able to progress any further with some of the changes that we required to make. So we already had an established relationship with Jobs Go Public for advertising our vacancies as a job board. And we had decided prior to me arriving that we were going to use them as our overarching applicant tracking system and CMS system. And of course, on my arrival, I discovered that Jobs Go Public, as great as it is really only a job board, and was going to provide us with a really low level ATS behind it, but actually wasn't going to give us what we needed when it came to our onboarding, to our arranging our inductions, and to making sure that our candidate journey was seamless from beginning to end. And my team manage everything from advert going live all the way through to someone starting in the business. So we manage pre-employment checks and everything else that goes behind that. So it was important that we also had a system that could integrate not only with our job boards, but with our DBS provider, our Occi Health provider, and anyone else that we needed to integrate that with, either in current state or in future state. So the first step that we took was to map our as-is processes and then our to-be, current and future processes, to make sure that we were heading in the right direction, not mapping only what we were currently doing, but actually what we wanted to do in the future, and to make sure that we were aiming for a system that could manage all of that for us and could make sure that we had a bespoke approach to that. On the back of that, we decided that we would give our ATS system that we were currently with, or with at the time, we decided that we would give them notice, and that only gave us 10 weeks, 12 weeks maximum, I think, Matt, wasn't it, in order to build, test and implement a new ATS system, which is a massive ask of any organisation, let alone when you're on such a huge transformation and change journey as the one that we were on. The only KPI that we were really measured against from a corporate perspective was our time to hire. So it was really key that I started to get to grips with, firstly, what's impacting on our time to hire and our time to fill, and equally, how can we improve on that? Is it the system that we're using, or is it our processes? And to be able to fit all of that into some of those remits that we wanted to introduce through the ATS. So I think that just gives you a little bit of a feel as to some of the challenges that we were up against and how we got to the situation that we're probably in now. How did we plan that? I was very fortunate in that I actually have a project management team here. So I had a project manager assigned. I also have a graduate and apprentice on the team who equally were able to support with some of the ad hoc work that was required to support with the relationship with TriPad. And why did we want to go down this route? So there were many reasons that we wanted to go down this route. Not only our candidate journey and manager experience, our brand, was the most important one for me, and how we're being portrayed, not only as a public sector organisation, but also as an employer of choice. We all know that this is an incredibly challenging talent market for all roles. And my team recruit everything from swimming instructors to librarians, to the chief exec, to finance, to procurement, to HR, to everyone that you possibly touches the council. And actually, when I started talking to people out there and thinking about the perception of the public sector and Liverpool City Council in particular, when we were attending jobs fairs, actually there's two main areas that they think that we focus on. One is they think we all sit in an office and that we juggle some paper, or we're either collecting the bins, which we do equally. We also have a huge reach out across our communities and our networks and our neighbourhoods as well. So incorporating all of that, and actually I'll be reaching as far and wide as we possibly can be from a brand perspective. So we've still got a lot of work to do, and 2025 is going to be a busy year for us. So even though we have already implemented TriPad, we will be using TriPad and looking at continuous improvements through TriPad, and developing our brand through Glassdoor, and indeed using, obviously, the scope of TriPad to support with that. The training of our team and our managers, which again is proving to be an easier job than it was previously because of the nature of TriPad, and making sure that they have everything they need as and when they're required to use the system. And then using our reporting to drive and make some of those easy decisions, some of those difficult decisions that need to be made when it comes to our processes. And I think all of us that are in that talent space are very aware of application processes, how our candidates are applying for roles. And one of my biggest challenges right now, and I don't know about any of you, is currently AI. As amazing and a tool as it probably is at this point in time, actually it's throwing us some huge curveballs as well right now. And then one of the other roles that TriPad has actually supported with for us is being able to reach out to other local authorities, and TriPad does that, and we're able to support them in some of their decisions they're making around TriPad at the moment as well. But actually the way that TriPad has allowed us to do that is actually through some of those conversations. Actually, we're using this system. It's allowed us to enhance our candidate journey and our manager journey, and actually this is what you could think about for the future and consider yourself. So that there have been obviously some lessons learned, but I'll come to those in a minute. So I think I'll probably just move to TribePad, and that was because our system, as I touched on before, was not probably as enhanced as it possibly could be, and we needed something else that could enhance our offering externally and internally as well. So TribePad has given us certainly the tools to be able to do that. So integration with our job boards, the relationship with Jobs Go Public has been enhanced through our relationship with TribePad, and I think I can only say from my experience that the customer service that we've had from TribePad throughout the journey, the technical team that Matt supplied during our build was phenomenal, and actually it allowed us to take what was going to be our future state and build that into our system in the way that we hoped it probably would. And for Matt, I think he was hugely encouraged by the way that that fell into place because of the ability that his team gave for us to be able to do that. The system was not only easy to build, but from my perspective, they gave my team the support that they required. We were obviously trying to manage exiting our old system whilst implementing a new system, and then juggling candidates at that in-between phase. So it was an incredibly challenging time for my team, and they managed that with a lot of professionalism, a lot of long hours, and I think a lot of extra candidate engagement that probably they weren't expecting to do along the way, because some of our work ended up being manual coming out of our previous ATS. I was very fortunate that I had a graduate support the team throughout some of this process, picking up some ad hoc work as well. And I think that there were some really key builds that happened for us throughout the process with TribePad. And I touched on just now application process. TribePad gives us the ability to be able to bespoke build our application process. And that has proved to be a very interesting build for us. So we have managers who are very keen to build their own application processes now, and that can be a CV submittal. Obviously, everything's anonymized within the system to a certain degree. And actually, what that means for us is that our managers are engaging further with some ED&I work that obviously is huge for us here right now, as I would imagine it is for many of you as well. We've built and are now just testing at the moment our bespoke onboarding systems, which we have enhanced with video content from our chief exec, from our lead counsellor here. So throughout that onboarding phase, up past the point of pre-employment checks, we've got a start date for somebody, and those onboarding packages now mean that we are engaged with our candidates all the way through until the point at which they've started with us. A particularly grey area for lots of organisations where we do see candidates drop off, and it was one of our key drop-off points between the point of someone being given a start date and starting with us, and that could have been in adults care and children's care and any of our other roles that we recruit here. There was no real trend that we could identify. I think reporting for us has been really key coming out of this, and one of the most important parts of this was being able to identify those differences for our corporate reporting, which was our time to hire and our time to fill, time to hire being the most important one. When I first joined Liverpool City Council in November 23, our time to hire was an average of 121 days, which made me a little bit anxious, to say the very least. There were many reasons behind that, but TribePad has allowed us and given us the reporting and the data to be able to identify the changes that we needed to make, and we've now managed to reduce that to an average of 57 days, and that includes all of our safeguarding roles. So, you know, for me anyway, that's a huge step in the right direction, and that's certainly one of the huge advantages that TribePad has brought to us through the identification of data through its reporting. I think the other piece is around ED&I that I just touched on. ED&I in particular is a huge focus for us. So anonymization of applications, sharing of interview questions, all of that really great stuff that we all do, and the gender bias decoding within the advert writing in TribePad certainly has helped to add to our diversity and our inclusive recruitment here, without a doubt. It's a key point for us, and it's always a key talking point with managers when we're writing our adverts. And then the other point just to touch on there is also the AI identification. So I'm finding, and my team are finding, and it's becoming more of a challenge for us, that during our application process, candidates are using AI to write their applications, which includes the essential criteria that they need to meet in order to be shortlisted for a vacancy. So that is proving to be a challenge, but TriPads have already jumped on and found a solution to that. And hopefully we'll be bringing in some software in the spring that will be able to identify those candidates that are using AI in their application process. And it's then up to us how we address that as an organisation. We've already drafted wording. It's going to our AI strategy, and we'll make sure that we align that obviously with the TriPads changes that will be coming our way. And I think that the really key thing here is that Matt was made aware quite early on that we were on a huge transformation and change journey. And Matt has supported us in meeting some of the key goals aligned to our people plan at Liverpool City Council. And that includes our ED&I focus, AI, our reporting, changing and moving the dial for us on our candidate journey and our manager experience. And Matt's team certainly have gone above and beyond to help us with that. Taking our key stakeholders on that journey as well was absolutely key. So they've been part and parcel of the testing of the system. And initially, because we had such a short time scale to build and test and implement TriPad, we involved as many people as we possibly could at that testing phase to get their feedback. But we had to go live as soon as we quickly could with getting our vacancies live. That was the most important part of this. So we continue to build TriPads, which the system allows us to do. And then we're still reflecting back on a regular basis with the support of Matt and his team. We actually, we've done an amazing job of getting this to where it is, but what do we need to do next? What's that continuous improvement journey going to look like? Because as fast as we're putting in place some of the changes we want to make, the marketplace, the world of talent is changing, and we have to be able to change with it. And TriPad gives us the ability, the intuitive and flexible and agile approach to be able to do that. So without a doubt, we have been on a huge journey with TriPad, and it's only been, Matt, it's only been 7 months. I have to say, it does feel like a lot longer. And actually, it's certainly been an easy journey for us. And here, this slide for me just says, TriPad's been a huge support for initial contact, project managers to customer service. And I'm more than happy to give you an overview of our journey if any of you would appreciate that. And I think that I know only too well, having been in many organisations, both private and public sector. I've worked with many ATSs, and I haven't had the customer service and the support for many of those that I've had from TriPad. And I think that's probably the standout for me when it comes to TriPad, and also the ability for them to be able to juggle the public sector challenges that come our way with some of the processes, Matt. And actually, one of the lessons learned, I think, for Matt and his team that I have asked them to take away is maybe to build almost 2 versions of TriPad, one that focuses on the private sector and one that focuses on the public sector, just due to, I think, some of the complexities of some of our processes here, the individual portals that we require for things such as redeployment, as an example. And actually, I've said to Matt that I'm more than happy to help him to develop those over time, to make sure that he's got an offering that is moving as rapidly as TriPad currently is at the moment. And I guess that, Matt, you've probably got some lessons learned from the way that you've been working with us as well. But that continuous improvement piece obviously is something that we will continue to work on. So I hope that that has helped all of you out. One of the things I will just mention really quickly is as part of our senior recruitment, so our tiers 1, 2, 3, and 4, so from the top all the way down to our heads of service, some of that recruitment has been managed in-house. As we move forwards, we will be managing more of that. So we will be utilising, for example, the Career Builder site within TriPad, which is the ability to be able to build our own microsites for some of that senior recruitment that we would normally go to agency for. So again, having that ability from a cost-saving perspective, the return on investment is vast for that for us. So again, looking forward to using that in the future, Matt, going into next budget year.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for that, Claire. Some really interesting things that you've shared. And I'm sure a lot of people have resonated with. People think we juggle paper and collect the bins. I'm sure there were some nods and smiles going around there. Well, I guess one of the things that stood out to me, and I'm sure other people perked up at this as well. You mentioned moving to a time to hire of 57 days, I think, and crucially, the data helped you get to that point. So I guess, could you just share a bit about what changes you made? And this is probably nothing to do with TriPad, right? You guys are the heroes of your story. But what sort of changes did that allow you to make to then get to that much better time to hire, practically halving it?
Yeah, so the reporting was key in that, Matt, and I think the scope of the reporting that we were able to identify, some of those loopholes. So, for example, where are candidates dropping out of the process? How are they converting through that process? And where are we seeing some of those challenges for managers? So, for example, candidates were coming into the process, we were seeing them staying application process for a lot less time. We were moving them straight to shortlisting and actually asking our managers to be more flexible and agile in their approach rather than waiting for that closing date. Let's start to review our candidates earlier on. If there are some standout candidates, if they're actively out there in the market at this point in time, we need to be interviewing them now. So I guess it wasn't just about TriPad. It was about me with my talent head on, trying to bring some changes to the way that we work. But TriPad allowed us to do that because it was so much more visible than it had been previously, because we didn't have that level of reporting in our previous system. So those conversion rates were really key. The other thing that was really key was the visibility on the dashboard of all of our vacancies. So bringing to life for the team in particular, who hadn't really been used to any element of vacancy management or candidate management, I guess, to the point of understanding it impacted on our time to hire. So once they started to see their own time to hire drilled down by directorate, and that was their accountability to make sure that we were doing the best thing for our managers and for the business and for the candidates. That data allowed us, and their dashboards allowed to see, I've got a vacancy, it's closing, I need to make sure I action that, I need to make sure that I'm engaged with my manager. Mr. Manager, here's a quick note. And I think the automated emails as well, Matt, have certainly, and some of those alerts have certainly kept managers on track for us, and candidates equally as well throughout that process. But that time to hire certainly came through looking at those conversion rates and making sure that we were managing our vacancies, closing those vacancies down instead of allowing them to run for 2.5 years without closing them down, which obviously impacts on your time to hire, and making sure that the team were actioning everything as and when they should be.
Brilliant. We've got another couple of questions, another couple of minutes, so I'm sure there'll be some questions that flow through. The last thing I wanted to ask you, Claire, is having made that leap from the private sector into the public sector, is there anything, and again, this is probably nothing to do with systems, but more generally, is there anything that has either surprised you, good or bad, about that transition, or anything that you think that in the public sector we can learn from that experience in recruiting in the private sector?
Yeah, so I guess my jump from private sector to public sector, through self-awareness, I had to realise very quickly that my 200 miles an hour pace actually had to slow down to about 50 miles an hour. Firstly, for people to keep up with me, but secondly, also for me to understand some of the complexities of working in the public sector, some of the political challenges that we have, and also the huge amount of structure and red tape that people sometimes refer to it as, but actually isn't red tape. It's there for a reason. It's a process. So what I would say is that for anybody wanting to make the leap from private to public sector, actually, it's just as busy here. It's just as full on. The transformation and change across the public sector at the moment is phenomenal. And it's not just us at Liverpool City Council going on that journey. It's the whole of the Liverpool City region. Matt, you're putting me in touch with other people from the public sector who are going through the same challenges that we have been. And I'm able to support them and talk them through some of the challenges that we've had and how we've managed to fix them. So there's certainly so many positives, without a doubt, making that move. But what I would say is that the complexities of being here in the public sector do just make it a little bit more challenging in terms of having a system such as yours to work with.
Excellent. And that pace of change, I don't think anyone is expecting that to change anytime soon with devolution on the cards and everything that brings. We've probably got some other sessions lined up for that. But Claire, thank you so much for your preparation, for your time and sharing your story. There is one question that has come in just at this moment, which is, hi Claire, we're on the TriPad journey at the moment. This is from Madeline. Go live 3rd of March. I'd be interested to understand how you've changed, that's okay, how you've trained your managers following the Train the Trainer session.
Yeah, so Train the Trainer session, I've taken that away, Madeline, and turned that into some drop-in sessions. So we're doing some lunch and learn sessions, some drop-in sessions which managers can attend, and we're trying to manage that so that we can address whatever we feel at the time is going to be a hot topic, because we're very aware we've obviously got new managers coming into the business who are being trained through our induction program, who might not recruit for 6 months, for 12 months, for 18 months. So running refresher sessions as well. We wrote a very comprehensive guidance pack for managers, which I'm more than happy to share with you. And the other thing that we did introduce as well, which you will see on any of our adverts, if you go onto the Liverpool City Council careers page, we also introduced a candidate pack for our candidates as well to support them through that application journey and what that looks and feels like. I also made a very comprehensive user guide for managers, which we initially gave to them at the point that we were going live. So there are various, I guess, documents there that I can share with you. I'm more than happy to share them with you because there's nothing in there that you shouldn't see from Liverpool City Council. So if you would like me to share those with you, I'm more than happy to do that. If you want to jump on a call, as Matt has been putting me on calls with others to this point, please do pull my contact details and drop me an email.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Claire and Matt. That was really useful, and I hope PPMA colleagues found that useful. I'm sure there's more to the story, but of interest to me particularly was how you use the implementation of the product to have a look at the processes behind the product, which are key for it to work. I'm also particularly interested in how you move forward with the identification of AI applications, and I don't think that that's specifically just about TriPad. I'm sure, Matt, you'll agree. That's across all ATSs, and I'm sure all people on the call will be interested in that. So a big thank you for coming along today, and thank you also for saying that you're willing to take questions afterwards. What happens is often people go away, have a little bit of think about it and go, actually, I should have mentioned that, but it's good that they can get in touch with you afterwards. PPMA colleagues, I hope while you've been in this webinar that you've managed to grab a bit of lunch. Often we're back to back, so do make sure that you do take a break. While you are here, I just wanted to remind you that PPMA conference is coming up. You'll know the dates are the 9th and 11th of April. We are at a fantastic venue in Manchester. We're at the Midlands, if you're not aware of that. And if you're not aware, it's actually our 50th year. So it's going to be spectacular. We have some absolutely amazing speakers this year. And if you are interested in coming along and seeing what is in the future landscape and having all the tools that you need to be able to implement in your work, back at your authorities, then please come and join us, and tickets are available. But I'll let you all go because it's only short and sweet, and I know that you'll have other meetings to go on to. Again, thank you, Claire. Thank you, Matt, and have a good afternoon, colleagues. Bye-bye.
Pleasure. Lovely to meet you all.